we did not prepare anything between us, then it will be an open loop. But I will show. It's okay. Yeah. I will show you a few slides to open the global discussion about this big global energy question. I just gather some slides to open the things. To remember that at the beginning, in the beginning, there was only energy. It's a long time ago, and from this long time is 14 billion years ago. Then we had only energy, and after that we had some matters and so on. It was shown by Michel at the beginning about the standard models, and now we are living in this world with the energy distribution of the universe. We are looking for the fundamental research. We'll talk tomorrow about this dark energy, dark matter, and now we are living in the world of matter, where we will deal with matter and energy, but it is only 5% of the energy in the universe, matter universe. It's becoming very humble suddenly. Okay, what I want to say, maybe 1 second, 2 seconds, what is energy for you? When I'm asking this to a lot of in my conference students, what is energy for you? This is a very difficult question, and answers are very surprising. I will take today more the economical point of view. Second question to you, you have to think, and do you know what is your last energy bill? What is your spending per year in energy relative to your income? Electricity, heating, transport, more or less. You think it's 1%, 10%, 50% of your income? When you are asking the question, especially young people, they don't know. They don't know how to say that. When you ask the question, how much was your last rent, or how much was your last phone bill, immediately the answer. It's strange. Just to give a, maybe you can think, you can compute your things. When you are looking in the world, more or less, the share of income devoted to energy at the particular level or the global level is 5 to 6%. It was decreasing the last years. Now it's slight increase after the COVID, especially after the Ukraine war. Then the question is important to take care of 5% of our budget. Can we neglect? It's the same thing. Can we take care of our brain? Our brain is 3 kilo, is 3% of our weight. But without brain, it's difficult. Without energy, you have nothing. But you have to take that into account. I want to say that people said, wow, we have to go to renewable. But before 1850, we were sustainable. We are with the wind, with our strengths, with all the things, windmill and so on, was sustainable. Now we are back from this world to this world with machine, trucks, big carrier, truck and so on. Initially, the fuel was the wind, was the water, our strengths, food, but now the fuel is that coal, oil, and gas. Transform completely our society. The society, you can see, is from 1850 to now. This is an increase about energy per capita. Now, every human around the world have more or less 20,000 kilowatt hour per year. It's huge. A strong worker can develop with the arm and the legs more or less 100 kilowatt hours with your work. Then you have multiplied in 150 years by a factor 200 the capacity of moving to do work and so on. In the OCDE, by a factor 600. Then we have to say, this was a big change. Then we are looking at this world population, it was an increase, it was very linked to that. With the world energy consumption, the world population evolution, the GDP, all these curves are matching. You can superpose this curve. This thing also is superposing with the life expectancy, increase of life expectancy. Is inverse proportional to the annual working hours per worker, all these things. But it was a price to pay. Exactly the same curve about the CO2 in the atmosphere. Now we are more close to 50 billions of CO2 equivalent in the atmosphere. And this is also the same thing that now we are looking at the increase of ppm of CO2, exactly the same curve. Then the price to pay, it was that. Do we want to continue? We know that what is the problem of CO2, I will not discuss today. what I want to say to show you is this curve. What always in these last 30 years increase of energy. Everybody said we have to go out. Coal is reducing. No, coal is increasing. In absolute value, the production with coal is increasing. And when you're looking at that, you can see 80%, 80% is for fossil energy. We were discussing with Tony this morning in the van. Fossil energy is fusion energy. It's a store fusion energy. But okay, with carbon, there was a big storage of carbon. Then when you are burning this fossil, you are liberating carbon. I want to say also the difference when you discuss with people said, oh yes, but if you go to nuclear energy, you will use uranium, thorium, or fusion, deuterium, tritium. Yes, but there is a big difference between fossil, where you have carbon, it's coming from these trees and so on, and ore. Ore is a mineral thing. When you break or when you do fusion, you don't produce carbon, CO2. This is the big difference. I discuss with students, they don't know the difference. It seems simple, but once again, coming back to education. I want to say also, because I discussed at a high level in France, so people said, okay, but we are putting CO2, but it will disappear. First of all, the CO2 will disappear not so very quickly, because after 100 years, you have still 40%, and after 10,000 years, still 10%. Then every molecule of CO2 we are putting in the atmosphere will take time to go out. Then it will be time constant. And all the effort we will do will take time, which is very difficult with young people, saying the effort you will do now, we will see only in 40, 50 years. And why? Also because I remember was French politician said, but we have CO2, more or less CO2 free in France is okay for us. No, air mixing in the planet is mixing, the air is mixing every 1 year, 2 years. Then all the CO2 is for everybody. Then I put CO2 is sustainable. When you are putting CO2 in the atmosphere, it's for a long time. Okay, what I want to show in this slide is there is a difference in production of energy. Then this is just number you have to remember. When you produce 1 kilowatt hours, you are putting 800 grams up to 1 kilo if you have a line net. What it is in Germany, you have a lot, by the way. Gas is half. You go to PV, you go to wind, you go to nuclear, you go to hydraulic. Then when people said, okay, nuclear is a lot of CO2, you can see that. And when, for example, Germany said, I want to stop my nuclear plant and to replace by PV or coal, you can see, you can take arguments, other arguments, but not about CO2 emission. This is the slide I want to show you because I was also is investment, global energy investment in clean energy in fossil fuel from 15 to 23. You can see this is, we were speaking, I don't know if you're working, 1 trillion. Then it was, it's true that renewable is increasing, but the investment in oil, in fossil was decreasing during the COVID and restart to increase. We are speaking 1 trillion. I heard the number I read very quickly yesterday was invested 485 billions for new pit to discover a new pit of oil last year. And when you look at the same curve for nuclear, all the global things, we are speaking about 45 billions. And we are speaking 1 trillion, 1,000 billion, and 45 billion. Are we coherent? Are we coherent? This morning we speak about the Green Deal and so on. Are we coherent? Why? It's an open question that we'll ask to my colleagues. And last but not least, we had the discussion during the break about this morning about Fukushima and Chernobyl. When you are looking the death rate per unit of electricity production, you can see this to produce 1 terawatt hours is the number of deaths, long time with the pollution and so on, with coal, 1 terawatt hours, and you can look at biomass, gas, and nuclear and solar, obviously, is very low if you're looking 1 terawatt hour with all the things. Then once again, the arguments that you have to be careful when you are articulating numbers, what it is that. Okay, I want to finish because there was a discussion about energy, water energy. You need water to do energy. We were discussing with Tony this morning that I had my 2 slides for Tony. Well, this is a photo you know very well. This is a photography for during Apollo 8. And I think this I like that 50 years later, Anders said, we have come to explore the moon, but the most important thing is that we have discovered the Earth, what he called the blue planet. This, I like this blue planet. This, when you are looking at, is full of water. And I like also this representation. If you are taking all the water of the world, all the water, ocean and so on, you're putting in a sphere. This is a sphere. It's a sphere with a diameter of 1,384 kilometers. All the water. This is amazing. And if you are taking the liquid fresh water, not salt, is this ball. And if you are taking only, removing only the legs, that is to say, the water we can drink and so on, is this bowl, 56 kilometers. This is a concern. Then we have to be, I think for me, we have to have a policy for energy and water. Without water, we have no energy. And we can see that also with nuclear plant in France, for example, on the Rhone River, you have to take care. Then I think we have to link the two, and it's really important. Okay, I want to introduce, and I will give the floor to my colleagues.
Thank you. Mirek, would you like to be the next for intervention?
Okay.
Can I ask you to use the mic so that we can have it in the recording?
It was amazing, but I won't oppose, but I have totally different view. Yeah. Maybe I will start with quotation, my famous, never send to know for whom the bell tolls. It tolls for thee. It was John Donne, written text from 17th century. Hemingway used it in his novel. I think we have a little bit different problem than just technologies and new tendencies and trends in energy sector. The first provocative and little bit maybe shocking thesis of me is that the big global energy questions are not about energy trends, about energy strategies, about energy policies, about technologies. No big global energy question is related to energy itself, because the problem is totally different. The problem is different because of our civilization, as we know, as we remember maybe, is a little bit dying. It's changing. And there are some laws which I will try to describe this process. Energy is accompanying tool, accompanying process of these tendencies of society, of our Western civilization. The first law is a law of collapse and regeneration. Every civilization has some expiration date. It started with some conflict or trigger and will finish very similarly as Roma's empire. Now we are living the life during the destruction of a new Roma's empire in life. Our civilization is behind the break point, a Western civilization. Second law is a law of leap change, some jump. It is connected with Heraclitus law, for example. It is law that we are in inertial frame. We are not able to identify the symptoms. We are as a frog, boiled very slowly in water, unable to jump out from this boiled from this, jak se to řekne?
Boiling water.
Yeah, boiled water. We are not God to be able to observe these processes in non-inertial frame and to identify the symptoms. And unfortunately, we resign on the fourth law. It is shared vision and values. Every civilization must have some shared vision and values. we can discuss about some individual freedom, responsibility, democracy, Roman law, Christian, Jewish rules, and so on, humanism, enlightenment, human rights, free market, and so on. We resigned, definitely. Postmodern, post-factual, decarbonized, emission-free, egalitarian, classless, sexless, moneyless, sunlight world. It is highway to hell. Yeah. The fifth law is a special law, and we resign on current social contract. Social contract is very important. It is some non-written, sometimes written, mutual interaction, rules and cooperation between individual parts on this society or civilization within our civilization. Representatives are usually elites. Quality of elites is maybe modify the quality of this social contract. The social contract today is changing in unknown direction. We don't know exactly what's a new social contract. Without social contract, it's not possible to survive in this kind of civilization. The sixth law, and it is a little bit related in energy, every civilization is determined, and development of this civilization is determined by cheap, affordable sources, especially energy sources. Without energy sources, this civilization is dying. Without energy, it's not possible to live, not possible to create and to develop any civilization. And we resigned. We decided to use so-called renewable, but in fact intermittent, occasional sources. We destroyed our competitiveness, prosperity. We are slowly going to riots, social tensions, wars, turbulences. Unfortunately, it's true. It's visible. And the last law is law of adaptation. The success of any civilization is determined by the degree of its ability to adapt to changes in the natural environment. We didn't solve to adapt to some changes. We decided to change the planet, to keep the temperature very arrogantly, very ambitiously. And there are 7 laws which we cancelled, and I am not the god to be able to identify the symptoms. I am more the frog. I am sitting and it very slowly boiled, as you. But I think we have to, when we would like to identify the solutions, we have to come back to some rules. I understand the words as a rebuild, restore, renew, remove, not restart and reset. The civilization is not computer. It is not possible switch on, switch off. Control C to control V. It is not possible. It is non-irreversible process when we will destroy and we will reset these processes, these rules, critical thinking. We have to believe independent scientists. We have to believe to mathematics, physics, economics, chemistry, not some preferred and donated scientists. What is this scientist consensus? It is oxymoron, typical oxymoron. 95% of scientists agree with this stupid idea. All new research, all new unique research are done by opponent, dissident, falsification of hypothesis. It is a principle of our world, not to agree with something, to be donated, subsidized. We have to stop disqualification and discrimination of long-term function solutions. It is not. I am not boomer. I am very careful, and we have to stop this monstrous and morbid subsidized principles, because it is not market. I have some story, maybe as a finish of my speech. My minister of energy, of trade and industry, it doesn't matter, discussed in some caucus in European Parliament, and some green German MP told to my minister, Riemann, Minister, we understand your effort and approach to keep the market, but we are afraid that it means free market. I think it's typical. Yeah? And when we will come back to free market, to these values, to individual freedoms, when it would be possible, we will find a solution. Nuclear fusion. Maybe really renewable sources as a hydro, as a geothermal, because to have only one way, solar and wind, with this low, very low energy density, with a big troubles for storage, big expenditures, incredible cost. It will bring the, I think, tensions, social tensions. 20 years ago, I said that the Green Deal and green transition, this Energiewende, stupid ideas, will finish on the pocket of the German taxpayer. And the situation is now here. Our company are going to United States, to Asia, because of prices of energy, because of regulatory framework, because of the better approach to money, no ESG in the United States, as I said, in the banks in Europe. That's all. I am a little bit skeptical, but only way is to use the brain, to use this only renewable sources. It is in our heads. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Lenka, would you like to follow? No, sorry, I said Lenka, which is, yeah, I should have said his name, and then, yes.
Yeah. No, it's difficult to speak after Mirek, because now I don't know whether I'm in depressed or I'm still in hopes that what shall I do and sell to my tiny little son once I come home, whether he has any chance to survive. But anyhow, I will be more pragmatic and down to earth than my two predecessors, and I will stay with Europe to be a teaser for the roundtable policy debate. And basically, I wanted to start positively. And the only positive thing I have to say about the energy and the recent crisis is that we've survived the crisis. And I think this is really a positive way that we've survived, despite, I remember the very beginning of the crisis, January, February 2022, and especially March, we were sitting, at the time I was head of the Czech Association, and I remember the sleepless nights. Nobody even predicted that we could survive as Europe, and especially as Central Europe, the way we survived the crisis, that there were no industries being cut down, people were relatively comfortable surviving. And we've managed. And maybe this is also what I'm going to talk about, is an answer to your points, Michal, from the very beginning. Why are we have so many strategies and basically nothing in the end is implemented, or only a little is implemented? And I think that it can be illustrated on the disparity of the lessons learned from the crisis on what actually energy is, what energy policy should be, and how we should treat energy. And I'm really now sorry for that Europocentric. I think that there are several totally opposite lessons learned when it comes to different stakeholders and market actors. The first of all is business. When you look at the reaction of the business, follow up the crisis, business is relatively happy and satisfied that we've managed the crisis. Market was functioning, and basically we've sustained it much better than we expected, and they consider this to be a proof that basically there is no need for any substantial change. So we should go more or less in the old path, and there is no need for any structural changes. More or less, it was about the competition and how to get some additional subsidies. But the business as such considers this crisis as a proof that the market works and there should be no further interference into the market. A completely different vision or lessons learned are when you come to Brussels. And this is already a repetition from the crisis in 2006, from the crisis in 2009. Brussels officials have much broader view, and they are looking at the root cause of the crisis, of the changing global patterns, and realizing and already gradually translating these lessons learned or attempting to translate it into the legislation, realizing that energy is really a mighty force when it comes to the blackmail, and it's a really effective geopolitical weapon. As you said, Mirek, energy is crucial. Cheap energy, abundant energy is crucial for survival of the civilization and also for the future competitiveness of Europe compared to whoever else. And basically what the European officials realize is that we can be really effectively blackmailed, that we cannot really believe and rely on the global supply chains because there is nothing more like global supply chains anymore. And definitely what we have lost, and it's not because of the crisis, but also because of the COVID, is the faith in globalization. So we have to really rely more locally. And the lessons learned is from the Brussels is being more Europe-centric, looking at Europe as one really well interconnected continent where not that huge comparative advantages that we have can be effectively shared and minimize the extra costs and inefficiencies, and basically really even being willing and able to put extra costs on the energy to really reflect the security concerns. When you look at the new rules for the tenders for windmills, for photovoltaics, the minimum share of localization, the European Industrial Strategy, Raw Materials Initiative, we are super late compared to Chinese. As you said, they've been about the whole Africa before us, but at least we are now moving. And the third contradictory lessons learned are by the individual European governments. I think that now everybody already in Europe realizes from the politicians that energy is not just another commodity compared to what Margaret Thatcher used to preach us. That was 3 decades ago. And basically everybody understands that should you not have sufficient energy and relatively affordable energy to supply to your customers and to your businesses, you will not be in the office the next day. So basically, this is the lessons learned. But there is another lesson learned contradictory to what the Commission has learned, and that is that probably, first of all, we cannot rely totally on the businesses. We don't trust them. So what you can see is after many years and decades of forced privatization, a deprivatization, bigger role of the government in the sector, really not a full trust, and the vision that the business cannot put additional price tags on security and strategic long-term decisions. But also there is a paradoxically fading faith in European solidarity. And that this has nothing to do with energy, but it has got to do with COVID crisis and the face masks. Everybody was afraid whether the Germans would allow the dissemination of the face mask. And now what's the question is, will be able to find consensus. And the big challenge for the upcoming European Commission is how will we merge these 3 lessons learned in discussing the new provisions, a new working program for the upcoming 5 years, because I think really the securitization is there, deglobalization is there, but I am afraid that without further Europeanization, we will be totally, sorry to say it, screwed. We cannot be absolutely competitive compared to America, compared to others, but it will take a lot of political courage and responsibility. And de facto, it would have to have a backup from the businesses to pursue this. But that's just my recommendation.
I'm very curious, Tony, how you're gonna close this panel. I'll take a mic. Good luck.
Thank you for the challenge. I have to say, so I was going to say, look, the politics of this is going to be really, really hard, and the politics of decarbonization, the transition. I'm very glad that Mirek's comments, in a sense, a clear demonstration of how hard the politics of this is going to be. And you know, as a practitioner of politics, I think Mirek is a kind of example of how hard this is going to be, right? So I'm going to just say a few things loosely based around a critique of some of your propositions. So I think your first point about Rome, civilization's collapse, etc. I think the chart from Frédéric showing quite what a radical change in human history we have from 1860 onwards is the important chart. And the important bit actually goes to the correct thing, which is, look, what this comes from is number 6, the cheap energy. That has changed human civilization completely, right? And we now have a degree of productivity and superhuman strength, which no other this is what that chart is, the world of the Anthropocene, and we're in the world of the Anthropocene. The second point, which I think I would like to push back against, Mirek, is your point about the boiling frog. So, of course, and I say these things in full, absolute respect for everything that you said, right? But I do think that the boiling frog is the boiling frog, not a boiling human. The human, in fact, has always tried to emerge from the boiling water and has always tried to understand their environment. And it's that understanding of the environment which creates that extraordinary chart that Frédéric showed us. And it's that understanding which allows us not to be slaves to adaptation, but to be able to understand, to predict, and to intelligently react. So we're not merely frogs, right? We're in the Anthropocene precisely because we're not, precisely because however imperfect and however much Michal is right in thinking how hard the progress of science is and reminding us of that, however hard it is, our understanding the one constant of humanity for 10,000 years has been our gradual increase in understanding. And that's the sense in which we're not frogs. And I think that goes to the third point, which is a point, Frédéric, that you talked about, look, we've got to be coherent here when we address the energy challenge and the transition challenge. And I just want to spend a moment, just to try and say why I believe that our current, I say ours as a sad, no longer citizen of Europe, but nevertheless, still sufficiently ours in that I feel that it's ours. Our approach is not so incoherent. Okay, so I'm going to make a case for the coherence of what we're doing. In particular, so we have put a lot of money into renewables. Into solar and wind, and they're very cheap, right? It's remarkable the rate at which the cost of those two technologies has fallen to the point where the levelized costs compared, is still half your best estimate of what fusion will produce. Now, as the chart that we saw from the Gauss presentation this morning showed about the intermittency and the need for base load, what we've done by putting those enormous investments into intermittent renewables is we have created a kind of bounty. There's a huge bounty out there for whoever can solve the intermittency problem. And Gauss and fusion is one of those solutions, right? One of the ways this Gauss is going after that bounty. But that bounty is out there for whoever can solve it. Maybe it will be Gauss. For Gauss, I certainly hope so. But maybe it won't be. At 10 cents per kilowatt hour, actually, maybe it will be some storage technologies. Maybe it will be the hydro pump storage that Mirek, you're keen on, that will actually start building this again. We have already now created an enormous financial incentive to put those solutions, to find the right solutions. There's a race on, and we have created that race by what I would think of as a very coherent piece of industrial strategy and industrial policy. And I guess that point about the coherence takes me on to to the argument that you wanted to make for adaptation and markets rather than understanding and strategy. It seems to me that as the not frogs that are boiling, the humans that are trying to not boil, with the understanding that we have, we can do some pretty intelligent things. And actually, that investment in renewables puts in train a dynamic which is very, very powerful. And that powerful dynamic has created has created this big prize. And that big prize may well be to fusion and to Gauss, it may well be to fission nuclear, and it may well be to storage, and it may well be to many of those things together. But what I want to say is that we've done something which doesn't lack coherence. And then I suppose the final thing that I want to say about coherence, and in the context of the difficulty and the politics of this energy transition, is I think we need to be very, very clear and very honest. To Mikhail's point, we're not always this honest. How do we think that these policies are going to do something which amounts to a solution to the climate change problem? I think that the call for adaptation, it's a little bit like saying, I felt was a little bit like saying, think of all our big cities in the 19th century before sewage. You say, oh, well, okay, there's sewage in the street, it doesn't matter. We adapt to sewage. No, we understand that sewage brings diseases. We understand we can do this better. We design it out. So we have so now what is the actual political logic of these solutions that we're putting in place? There are, as again, Frédéric said, there's 7 billion people. We need to, those people, not only us, but people who consume much less energy than us, are going to want to consume monumentally more energy per person. And that energy per person has to go with the one bad graph in Frédéric's presentation, the carbon graph. It has to be more energy per person with less carbon per person, right? And the only way politically we're going to do that is by coming up with technologies which are cheaper than the carbon-based ones. Because there is no politics which will keep 5 billion energy-addicted, 7 billion energy-addicted humans from using all the carbon energy that there is, except the only thing is something that simply beats it on cost. So that's what we've got to do, and that's the competition that our industrial policy has set up.
Well, thank you so much. I can see that Mirek is itching. Frédéric would like to jump in. Let me just say, let's use this as this excellent and really open conversation, which I think is the key for our symposium, is to be as open, listen openly, speak openly, and listen again. So this is a teaser for the afternoon breakouts, where there will be more interaction. I would like to thank our excellent panelists for this time. The one thing that I cannot help to add is that we don't talk about efficiency enough. I think that for me, efficiency is the key, actually. But yeah, let's keep it for the roundtable. So thank you so much. Thank you so much. And I would never do that to break this debate, but we are already really late, and we would not like to prolong that. So thank you so much.